Hi there and welcome to episode 7 of this gameplay tutorial walkthrough thing with MxM, bolts, and just a whole bunch of other general gameplay stuff that we're doing. So in this episode we're going to improve the equip. So at the moment if I press tab we just go straight into this strafe stance. And there's no animation to actually grab the gun on his hip. So we're going to do that. And one thing, I'm probably going to have to move the gun to his other hip because that's just the animation I have. I think he draws from the left, but we'll worry about that a bit later. So first things first, let's add the animations that we need. Now we're going to use events and we're going to use the layered events system. And what we want to do is when the character is idle, we want to play a full body animation to equip. But when the player is if they're already moving, then just play the upper body. Now you can do this any way you want. You could just do the upper body even when he's idle if you want, but I'm just going to do this to show you some different ways of doing things. So let's first add a new category to one of our modules. I'm going to put it in my pistol combat module. It doesn't really matter, and I'm going to call this actions, just sort of generic for now. And I'll go to my animations. So I have them under here in third party. I got pistol equip. It'd be nice if it was revolver animations, but hey, got to go with what we have. And we've got pistol unequip, which is here. All right, so I've added those two animations. And before I go into the events, let's also add a component to our character here. So we've got, see, I've already added it, naughty me. I'll remove that, you didn't see that. And I'll add MxMEventLayers. So MxM event layers. So this is a component that is actually an extension of MxM, and there is a way that you can actually make your own extensions to MxM. Basically, it bundles up a whole lot of functionality that makes calls to MxM so that you don't have to deal with the layers yourself. So how this works is I can call an event that's in the MxM animator the same way as I would usually call an event, which I don't think we've actually done yet. But there's plenty of tutorials on that, except instead you call it on this MxMEventLayers and you pass in an avatar mask, and the event will only play on the mask. Obviously there's some limitations, like you can't do warping with MxMEventLayers, but we don't need that in this case, so that's fine. If you didn't understand that, doesn't matter, we'll get to that later. But all you do is add that, usually leave this checked for most people. And now we can go and actually add our animations. And we're going to have to change up some script so that the gun only changes parent to the hand at a certain time. So let's go back to our module and let's have a look at this animation data. We're not too worried about this, we're more worried about adding an event. So let's hit preview. Yes, I will save my changes, and let's have a look at the animation. So I want to create an event when he actually draws. Oh, so it is actually on the right hip, so that actually works perfectly. So when he actually grabs the gun, so I'd say it's about there. And I'm going to click this little button here to add an event marker. And you can see that when I add the event marker, I get these sort of whiskers that come out the side. And these sort of explain the different parts of the event. Now I haven't made an event ID, so I'm going to have to do that. But let's just say where the event starts. So the event's going to start like right at the beginning here. So I'll set the time to 0, and I can click these buttons to make these whiskers go to that. So basically, in an event, since we haven't gone through events yet, I'm just going to go through this. There's 4 parts. There's a wind-up, action, follow-through, and recovery. Now, the action and the follow-through is all compulsory to be played, and the wind-up allows MxM to choose a pose anywhere within that wind-up period. And the recovery is a part of the animation that you can exit out early because of movement or for some other reason, but we're not going to use it too much. Let's actually, we might use it a little bit. So we don't want any wind up because we need the full animation here. So the action's going to start right at the beginning. So when we trigger this event, it's going to start here at the start, and it's going to play, and maybe about here I'm going to end the follow through and allow the rest of the animation to be recovery. So why am I doing this? Well, if there's no player input and the player just presses tab, I want the whole animation to play through in its entirety. However, if the character is going to be moving, I want the animation to just switch here. Maybe we'll make it a little bit longer. There is going to be a blend, so like I'm not too worried about it being in the perfect pose. But you know, if the player starts moving here, I want it to just end. And we can set the recovery there. Okay, so there's our event. Now we need to actually give it an event ID. So I'm going to go to my data modules, and we made this event module a while back, just because I knew we would need it. And I'm going to add a new event ID, and I'm just going to call this equip. And I'll add another one and call this UnEquip. All right, so we've got our two IDs. I should be able to select them here. Okay, so this is an equip event. Cool. We're going to need to actually modify something on the animation itself, but we'll do that in a bit. So let's go to our next animation, which is the unequip, and let's do the same thing. So the unequip, the gun goes to the hip about there. And we'll have the same thing. Let's set this to unequip first, and we'll have 0 wind up, and the action can be at the start, and maybe about, so the gun is in there. As soon as his fingers start to move, it's kind of done. And then we can go back to running. If we stand still, we're going to play the animation all the way, or we're going to exit early within this yellow section. So I'm pretty happy with that. So the events are now set up. That's it. They're done. We're not worrying about context because it's not that kind of animation. So we've done that. Now let's go to the actual animations, and we've got to change something in the input settings. So if we go to equip, I'm actually going to, I need to go to the base thing here. Okay, now we need to go to events, and I'm going to call this equip. Now this is to actually call a function, or we need to actually add it first. So we want to actually do it at the same point pretty much that we put our events. Keep in mind that these events, the place that I put them in these animations actually doesn't matter. So this is events in the timeline. Think of MXM events as actions, not events. These here are events that are going to call functions. So about where he grabs the gun, about there, I'm going to add an event. This is an animation event, and I'm going to just trigger a function that's called equip, and I'm not going to pass in any values. And I'm going to do the same thing with unequip, because what we want to do is we want to call a function that actually puts the gun in his hand at the specific time. So there, and I will add an event and say unequip. So if there's a function on the game object that is unequip or equip, it's going to call those. So what we need to do now is we need to set up a script that is going to, its sole purpose is going to be to catch these events and then do whatever they need to do with them. Now you don't have to do it this way. This is just something I like to do. I like to have a script that's only purpose is to catch the animation events and pass them off to wherever you go. So I'm just going to apply that to those animations, so those events are there, and we'll wait for Unity. Okay, that took about a century, but that's finished now. So we'll go to our character. So you got to find the animated component, because that's what triggers these events, and it's going to call a function on any other script that's on the same game object that has the same name using reflection. So let's actually create a script. Now where's my script? So I'm going to add a new one, and let's call it let's just call it animation events. You might want a more specific name for like characters or something, but that's just what I'm doing here. And why are we frozen? Oh, we've got a, oh gosh. Okay, go back to my character, drag that in there. Okay, so we've got our script. And I've got to just make two functions. I don't want an update or a start. Oh, I need to drag that onto the other screen so you guys can see. Let's make it a little bit bigger. I don't need a start. I just need those two functions. We're not doing any, continual updating here. So void equip and void unequip. Now this is cool because if I have any other animation events later, I can throw them in here. And we've got a space where we can deal with it easily. I'm going to need a few other things here. Or shall I... Let's just debug log it, just to make sure it's working. So debug.log, and we'll just say equip. And we'll do the same thing for this one. Just test that it is working now. We do need to change a few things because we don't want to... We'll have to switch over the logic from what we did before into here, but we need to first trigger these animations. So let's do that. When we go into our behavior, we're actually going to need an avatar mask first. So let's do that. And I'm going to create a new folder under data called avatar masks. And I'm actually going to make two. Where is it? I add more things to this list every update. So we got upper body. And I'm going to do one just for full body as well. Where is it? I just did it before. There. Okay, full body. And we'll go to the upper body and we will just turn off. We want everything in the upper body. Nothing in... What? Why did it do that? Okay, there we go. And the full body, we just leave everything on. So that is all ready to go. Okay, so let's go to our player logic and see where we're actually equipping. We're going to combat and then we're going to pistol. And on enter state, we equip. Oh gosh, why does it do that? But this is the one that actually moves the gun from the hip to the hand. So we don't want that anymore. So let's move that away and we need to replace it with our call to an event. So I'm going to go MxMEventLayers dot begin event. So it's very similar to a normal call. So what we need is we've got an event mask, match pose. No, we don't want to match pose. So let's just use the basic one. And that's what we're going to do instead. And the equipping is actually going to be called from our other script. Now we need to plug in a few things here. I'm going to just do the full body one to start with. So I'm just going to put my full body avatar mask in there. Blend rate, let's just say half a second. Let's make it 1 second. No, let's make it half a second. That's probably pretty big. Playback rate is fine. We'll leave that as normal. And we need to make an event definition to call this event. So let's go to data and we will create a new folder called event definitions. Now this is just how we define events. Instead of having to call big functions with lots and lots of parameters, we can just pass it this event definition. So it's under core modules. Sorry, no, it's not. It's under gameplay. No, it's under utility. Yes, there it is. So MxM utility, MxM event definition. And I'm going to call this event def, and we'll call this equip, and I shall duplicate that and call it unequip. Okay, so let's set these up. So it's going to call an event of a standard type, and I'm fine with that. Now, if we want to actually see the event IDs, we need to place an anim data ref. So let's pre-process our data just so that we can get that, so we don't have to use an ID. So if I go to my data, motion matching, preprocessor, just get my folder, I'll override the previous one. Just going to pre-process all of that now with that event data. Okay, these are just errors because there are equip and unequip events. There's no way to actually stop these. It doesn't actually break anything, so don't worry about those. But yeah, for some reason, Unity wants to trigger the function even if it's not valid, and I don't know. So I don't know why it does that, but it's fine. So we can go now to our event definitions, and if we place in our MxM anim data as a reference, we now have these names that we can pick here instead of an ID. So this one's going to be, that's actually UnEquip, and this one will drag in the anim data, and this one will be equip. So these event types standard, priority -1, that just means it'll override whatever event we have. Number of contacts to match 0, we're not matching any contacts, we're not warping anything, so 0. I'm going to set all the warping settings to none and just leave those as they are. Post-event trajectory mode, we shall just maintain. Match require tags. We won't worry too much about this. Match trajectory, match pose, no real point. We've only got one animation anyway. Exit with motion, we'll leave that checked. So that's all we need to do for that. I'm just going to do the same for the other one. Oh, sorry, that needs to stay -1, 0, 0. And all of this default maintain. Cool. So there are our event definitions. So this is our equip event, and we'll plug that in there. The only problem is now we don't have a reference to our event layers. Oh gosh. So we're going to have to make that. So on our behaviors, we're going to have to add in another one here. So I'll call this MxMEventLayers. Add that, and we'll set that up in a second in the code. We'll link that up so that it works. So I'll just get object, add unit. So get object variables, and I will just get that MxMEventLayers, and we'll plug that straight in there. Okay, so that's good to go. I'm going to copy, well, I'll copy that one because we need to do this now on exit. So where we had the stow, I'm going to remove this one and replace it with a very similar function. So I got that there, and I need to go MxMEventLayers dot you know what, it's actually the same function. We're just passing in the UnEquip event, and our mask, we're just going to do, what did I do? Full body, and blend rate, we'll keep it all the same. So we've got our UnEquip and reequip. I'm not going to link up anything else. We just need to make sure MxMEventLayers is set, so this variable is actually set. And to do that, we need to go to our player logic. Okay, up the top. Okay, we've got all our things here. So private MxMEventLayers. So MxMEventLayers, and we need to get that component. So MxMEventLayers equals transform dot parent dot get component. You know what? It's yeah, it's not on the same game object. So we'll just do this get parent get component and children. And we are looking for MxMEventLayers. And then we just need to set that variable set. You can see it, just to recap, I got the variables like this from that's a variable decorations. I got this from Bolt. So this is how you get those variables from Bolt. And then I can just set that variable. Got to make sure the names are exactly the same. Layers, comma MxMEventLayers. So that variable is now set, so those calls should go through just fine. Okay, so there we go. I've changed the blend time here to 0.2. Let's give it a go and see if that works. So if I press tab, we play that animation, and if I let go, it puts it back, and the transitions are smooth. But there is one problem. If I spam it, you'll see some funny stuff will probably happen. See here, he put the gun away and then he brought it out. And that's because these are layers of events. So you'll notice that the draw animation is really quick because you want to get into combat really fast. But the stow or the UnEquip animation is pretty slow. So it's possible that when the equip animation ends, its weight is blended out, and the UnEquip is still playing. So we get this effect where he like puts the gun away, but then he's out shooting. And what we really need to do is we need to tell the event layers, hey, start blending out all the events. So cancel all the previous event layers, and it'll handle the blending out for you. There's two functions you can use for that. So let's have a look here. Now these are new functions. I've added them recently because I've discovered this. Did that again. And these are, so MxMEventLayers.cancel event, cancel all events. Now there's two of these functions. I actually have to remake unit options to see the other. The other one allows you to set a blend time that's different to the blend time you set when you began the event. So you can blend it out quicker if you like. So that takes the same variable there, but that's just going to start. That's going to trigger a, it's going to cancel all the events, change their status to canceled, and it's going to blend them out over time. Now we want to do that down here as well. When we UnEquip, we'll drag that in there. So now that should all play nicely. Let's hit play, and I should be able to spam it. And while he might look like he's having a seizure, at least he'll always end in the right place and won't suddenly snap back. So there's a seizure, but it doesn't really matter what I do. It's canceling those lower events, and I'm always ending up in the correct pose. So there we go. That's pretty much what we have for that. That's a really basic layered event, and we're going to take it a bit further because we don't want to suddenly stop moving while we're running. We want to use an avatar mask so that it only happens on the top. See, I'm actually keep holding forward, but he stops until he's done. We don't want that. So if we're running, we want to have a different mask. So I could make variables to get the mask, but I'm just going to do a kind of if statement. So here, I mean, we probably want to clean this up a little bit later, but for now, I'm just going to, you know what, I'd probably put this in scripts instead, but because this is visual, we'll do it this way. I might clean that up later. So a branch, and what we want to do on that branch, so let's just say if we're running, so if we're moving. So if we are, I'm going to do it like this so we don't have to repeat the cancel events. So we can cancel the events first and then we'll do the branch, and that saves us having to call it on both branches. I'll get rid of that for now. Give it its own little one there. Okay. So now we need to do something here. So we need to go MxM animator. MxM trajectory. Oh, wait a second. No, we'll go MxM animator dot is idle get. So that is going to be the thing. So if we are idle, we're going to play it full body. And I'll copy this. And if we are not idle, we want to play just upper body. So I'm just going to grab this, chuck it in here. So where was our full body thing? There's the upper body. I'm going to drag that into this one. Okay, so we have that now. We need to make sure these are all connected, and we've just got a path here where it's going to break this. I can reuse this here so I don't have too many nodes. Let's just use that one for both. And we can do a very similar thing down here. I'm going to get, I'm moving that away. We'll break these up so we can see them better. Got this, we'll bring that out here, and we can do our branch. And if true, we'll do that on the full body, and for false, we'll do it on the upper body. Where's my upper body? There we go. Oh, I can't see it. Zoom in more. There we go. Upper body. See, I mean, usually I do this on multiple screens, but since it's only recording on one, I have to do this window shenanigans. Okay, so that's that. Plug that in. Plug that in, plug that in. This comes off false. And we'll get our isIdle. Now we do need to get our MxMAnimator variable. Plug that in there because we're getting that from, that's an MxMAnimator function, so we need to be calling it from that animator. Copy that. Check it there. There we go. Okay, so that should now work. Don't get confused. If you're not used to visual scripting, that's fine. The more important thing here is that you are learning the functions of MxM. I'm not here to teach code, and it would be very long if I had to type everything out. Granted, this particular thing I probably could have done quicker in code, but that's fine. I probably will convert it to code later, at least so that I can call just one function and it'll do this, like, you know, begin equip animation sequence or something like that, and it'll do all that. But it's actually not a bad idea to prototype, do things first in a visual way, and you know, whatever's quick and messy, and then once you know that it works, you code it. It depends how you're going. C# pretty forgiving in that area, so maybe not. Depends on how you feel about it. I don't mind doing it this way as long as it's not getting too crazy with the nodes. So there we go, there's that. Let's try now to switch when we're running. Okay, so if I'm running, I press tab, there we go. It plays the animation while I am running. Beautiful, working pretty damn well. And if I'm idle, it should play the full animation. Yep, it does. Success. All right, that's it. Okay, so there's one last thing we need to do before this is finished, and that is to actually equip the gun at the right time. Now we already know that our equip and other calls are being called. We've got the debug log there, equip and unequip, and they're being logged at the right time in the animation. So we've just got to replace that debug log with our actual equip and unequip logic. So let's go here. So we're going to have to actually call a function on our player logic from our animation events script. So we're going to need to get that first. So let's just do that. I'll open up Visual Studio. All right, so let's just get our player logic. So we got player logic, and we'll say m player logic. I'll make this private, and I'll add a start function. Let me zoom in for you there, a bit easier to see. So I'm going to private void start, and we'll just say m player logic equals transform.parent.get component in children. And we'll say the player logic. What's going on here? Get components, get component in children. There we go. And in equip, we need to, yeah, I'll do some of this. Just to check, just in case for some reason it's not there. I usually wouldn't bother, at least for a tutorial, but hey, we'll do it. So mPlayerLogic.equip, and then mPlayerLogic.unequip.stow. I think I called it back then. Yeah, probably should have kept them the same name, but it's fine. So yeah, now that's linked up, so the gun should actually go in his hand at the right time. Let's check it out. Okay, there we go, and there we go. That's good enough for now. I'm pretty happy with that. So there we go. We have our layers. It did like a spinny one. But yeah, we should be able to do that. And if we stop, we do a full body one and another one. So we've got this sort of like after it plays, it kind of blends into this different pose and the feet slide on the ground. That's more an animation problem. It's not necessarily, it's not a motion matching problem. It's more the actual animations. Technically what you would do in a real game is you would make it so that your animation sets are correct. So like I'm using my own mocap animations with some animations that are made for cut clips, and they've obviously got a different pose. There's no real way around this, but to actually alter the animations the way you want them to. I'm not going to do that for this tutorial, but hey, making games is a big endeavor, so it's something you're going to have to learn to do, or at least figure out a workaround. But anyway, I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, we'll move on from there. I'm thinking that, you know, the next thing we need to make this an actual game of some kind is we need to be able to shoot. Now that we're equipping the gun properly and we can strafe and stuff, let's actually shoot something next episode. What are we going to have to do for that? We might have to do a little bit of layer work to do the recoil, or, you know, we'll probably have to do some aiming. There's probably not too much MxM in that, but we'll see how we go. I'll have to think about that. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next tutorial, and we'll take this a little bit further.